Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Recovery AA Big Book Solutions podcast. I'm Natalie. I'm here with my co-host, Michaelis.
Hello, guys.
And Norma, our special guest for today. Would you like to say hello?
Hi. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Norma.
He's like, no. Hey, fuck all these people.
No, like strenuous work. Our definition of strenuous work, when it's inconvenient and when we don't want to. So hopefully you guys aren't feeling that. But if you are, thank you for showing up regardless to be of service today. So I'll just explain what we're up to here. Hopefully those of you tuning in have heard some of the other amazing episodes and guests that we've had on prior to this one. I was checking out actually like the traffic and the stats and stuff, and we've had like hundreds of listeners so far on this podcast. Yeah, so it is getting out into the world. People are hearing this very amazing, important, and valuable message. So thanks to, Michaelis for carrying the message so far, through the years and down the line. And thank
That's
you,
so
Norma.
crazy. That's so weird. I didn't know that. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple hundred
Sweet.
So far.
That's awesome. All right,
And
cool.
that's only on one platform. So FYI, everybody, we're on a number of platforms. We're on Anchor, which is owned by Spotify, which is where I host the podcast from. We're on Spotify. So you can even I'm subscribed in my Spotify, and I see our logo and can listen. We're on Apple, we're on Google, a number of different ones. So anyway, however you found this podcast, you can click and find out more. We even have a website that just introduces Michaelis as the co-host for this podcast. So just to share a bit about what it's about. So it's AA, Big Book, Real Recovery. And what all of that means is, of course, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're hearing this, hopefully you know that. And hopefully you've heard of the Big Book. So that's the book Alcoholics Anonymous. So the 12-step process that was, formed and popularized through the book that's called Alcoholics Anonymous is the tool that we use and a lot of people around the world use to do the 12 steps, which guarantees a process of spiritual awakening and experience if you follow the program as it's outlined in the Big Book. And so the purpose of this podcast is to interview and talk to people who have them share their experience, strength, and hope. But not just like you hear it normally in an AA or recovery meeting. It's not like, oh, my drinking and using, and then I got clean, and then what it's like. It may be that, but more so it's like this Big Book study process. So it's like before the Big Book study, and then how did that find you? What's the process like? And then your life as a result of this process. So it's really impactful, insightful, powerful, and life-changing. It's changed my life. That's why I'm here. I know I can say the same for Michaelis. And so excited to talk to Norma and see what your story is today. So Michaelis, would you like to maybe introduce her or start with a question for Norma?
I feel like everyone kind of knows that her name is Norma. What's up, Norma?
Norma, alcoholic.
Yay.
All right, we're so legit now. So I guess the question for you, Norma, is when was the first time that you tried to get sober and why?
Gosh, I started to feel like my drinking was starting to get dangerous, driving, and I couldn't remember that I drove. And so that was, I would like to say probably 10 years ago. It's been so long, maybe even longer. And at that point, it was just me on my own, just feeling also like a spiritual call, thinking like whoever my higher power at the time, I know would not want me to be doing these things because, you know, I could kill myself, hurt my family and all of that. So I started to think about those things and really take them seriously. But, you know, just like the book says, after a little while, that plan is too much, and never mind, I was overreacting. Now I can have a couple drinks and then it would be fine a few times, and then it would not be okay. It would be drama or blackouts and things like that. So it was a long time of me doing that trial and error and that dance of like trying to cut down, and just definitely alcohol. I was just like, alcohol is a big problem, but I would still do other things and think it was okay. But eventually I would always drink. That was like the thing that made me feel the way I wanted to feel initially.
So you spent a long time like just trying to manage it on your own then, like without AA, without any of that stuff.
Yeah, a long time. You know, I went from vodka, vodka soda, vodka cranberry to I was like, okay, the vodka is a problem because I'm blacking out too fast. So we're gonna go move on to beer because I like beer. It's like soda. And so I could just put those down pretty quickly anyway. And so it would take a longer for me to get to the blackout point, but I would always get to that point, you know, not always, but, you know, the times that were very scary that made me reflect and really realize that like, I wasn't in my 20s anymore. It's not cute anymore. Like, it's just, it's dangerous, and my career could be damaged, so many different things, you know. But yeah, I was trying to do it on my own for so long, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was the mental health. I did think it was like, no, maybe I'm just depressed, maybe I just have anxiety, and I would drink for that. So it was this whole thing that would pull me back and forth. What is this thing, and why do I keep doing it, you know?
Did you see like psychiatrists or therapists during that time?
Yeah, I've seen a handful of therapists. And even when I moved here in Hawaii, I remember having a therapist that's like, I don't think you're alcoholic. Maybe you just need to drink a little bit, like, because you kind of try to cut it all out. And then, you know, I go all out, you know, I can only sustain that. It's like, try to be too good too soon. And I can't hold out that much, you know. Eventually, you know, the other crazy person inside me would come out with a vengeance.
Wow. The other crazy person reminds me of the Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend that she's like, you're like Jekyll and Hyde, you know, it's fun and games. And then all of a sudden it's like, there's a switch, and my friends could see that switch. A lot of my friends like that switch because, you know, some of them, they're like, oh, bring naughty Norma out, because I'd be more carefree and just silly. And just when I'm sober, I'm so rigid and uptight and trying to do everything perfect and just like not fun at all, you know? Yeah. So when I was here in Hawaii and I had to move a few times, I remember getting rid of some journals, and I were looking through them, and the consistent part was me consistently saying, if I could just get sober, if I could just stay sober, for years, like years of journals. And it was so sad, and I ended up throwing them away. You know.
Really?
So what happened to, you know, what got you into sobriety?
The thing that it was kind of like a sideways way to enter. I had a relationship that really just broke my heart and destroyed me. And I was like, this isn't normal, the way I'm grieving this relationship. It's 2 years in, I'm still just so broken. And I started researching love addiction, and I don't know how I ended up coming into Al-Anon. Because I thought he was the problem, you know. And then by sitting in some of those meetings, they talk about powerlessness and they talk about alcoholism, and it was explained in a little bit of a way that I don't know, I just heard it different. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not able to stop drinking. Like I'm the one with the problem too. Maybe I should go to AA. And so that was my entry into AA.
Through the back door.
How long ago
Yeah,
was
through the 2018 was when I first entered AA. I had gone to one meeting previously, but one of my friends took me in LA. And I don't know, I think everybody seemed like meth was a big thing there or something. Everybody was wearing leather jackets, and I think it was a club or something. I was like, oh yeah, definitely not. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not an alcoholic, you know? Yeah. But when I entered here, I started to hear the message a lot clearer, and it really resonated with the fact that these people were able to stop drinking, and it didn't matter how much, because that was another thing that was like, I don't drink every day. I can go 3 to 4 months by that time, but yeah, 3 to 4 months, but then I end up in the ER or almost like die, you know, and it's kind of a big deal, you know, so it doesn't matter the frequency, it's the way I do it. It's the unmanageable.
Yeah, exactly. So you got sober in 2018?
Yeah, I came to AA here in Hawaii. I joined the rooms. I heard what people said, get a sponsor, get a home group, you know, work the steps, all of that. And I thought, get a sponsor that, you know, they look like they have all of the things that I want. So I did pick someone that was like, oh, she looks like a successful lady. And so I went 10 months, no drinking, fully sober, working the steps. But I was just feeling more and more miserable. I remember telling everybody, I kept telling them, I think I'm doing something wrong. Like, I'm not letting go absolutely. And I don't know what I'm not letting go. Like, I was just like paranoid that like, something's wrong. Something's off, because I feel worse. Like every time as time passed, something was off. And I have had big issues with anxiety, and I think at that time I had a job and I had super bad anxiety about it, and I quit my job. It's kind of like what I did, kind of what I've done in the past, where I just feel so overwhelmed and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm a liability to the company. I can't do this to them. And I just like, I quit. And so that meant moving out of my place and living out of my car. That was my solution. And so knowing this, I remember crying and going to my roommate's refrigerator and grabbing a beer and like praying and saying, I'm sorry, God, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to drink. And that was like at 10 months, but that was like the longest that I had ever gone, because it was like 3 months, 4 months, all on my own. So there was something to it, you know, even though it wasn't the recovery that I needed at that time. Yeah.
And how did you work?
Oh, you're glitchy.
Are you there?
Okay.
Can
What
you
was
hear
that?
me? I was just
Yes.
wondering how you worked the steps with your sponsor that first time.
Gosh, it's hard to remember. I think she would just tell me what to do, maybe some worksheets. I think there were some worksheets. And I definitely did the inventory through the worksheets. I got up to the 7th step. And, you know, everybody talked about this inventory and how like freeing it was going to be. And it just felt like a confessional. And I was like, that's it. Like, I just didn't see any truths about myself. I didn't get to see the world in a different way. Like, nothing really shifted inside me. I was like, something's wrong, you know, like I was just like super paranoid. I'm like, this isn't working. And yeah, that's how I went through that.
So did you just kind of stop at the 7th step, or did you move forward from there?
No, I ended up drinking at that point, and I think I got a new sponsor at that time or something. I don't know what happened. my sponsor at that time had some health issues, and meeting with her was really difficult. And I made the decision to just let her know that I thought her health was important. And I felt like a jerk every time she canceled, especially on my inventory or fifth step. I really wanted to get it out of me because I thought I would get relief. And every time it got canceled, I was just super heartbroken. And I'm like, I'm dying, you know, like I felt so much pain. And yeah, and then guilt for being upset that she had to cancel because she had serious health issues. So yeah, I felt that it was time to get a different sponsor. Yeah, and I drank.
So then was it just the one beer at the roommate's house?
Oh, it was supposed to be the one beer, okay. But of course, like, I'm like, okay, one more. And I just drank all her beer. It was like a 6-pack or something.
And then did you continue your sobriety after that, or were you off to the races? Okay. Yeah. And then, so you got another sponsor?
I got another sponsor.
Did you start the steps over, or what did that part of your process look like? And
no,
then,
it's
go ahead.
It's a little blurry of all the different sponsors that I got, because I would ask people, and sometimes their approach, I was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work next. And so I went through a lot of sponsors, and at that time I started listening to speaker tapes, and I know that Mark H was a huge impact on my life, and I would always hear speakers that would talk about how they were still suffering until someone took them through the big book. And I was like, I want a sponsor that's going to take me through the big book. I don't have time for this. Like, I don't have time for the worksheets. It doesn't work. You know, something's not right. These people with 20 years are saying that they waited that long, and then the big book was the answer. I'm cutting through, and I want it now, because I don't think I'm going to make it.
Wow.
So then what happened?
My memory is so foggy. Let's see, a bunch of sponsors, and and then I thought at one point, my mind just tricks me, of course, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Maybe I'm just an Al-Anon, because I see most of my problems are in relationships. So I'm just going to go back to Al-Anon. And I went back to Al-Anon. So I didn't really leave the program, but I shifted over and I started drinking, I think, at that time. I was like, I'm just going to have a couple drinks here, a couple drinks there. And I remember going out for a burger and a beer. And that bar knows me, so I probably got free drinks. And then I went somewhere else, and I knew someone there, and they bought me drinks. And at that time, you don't say no to free drinks. And the night went on, and I blacked out, and I drove, and I totaled my car. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, for sure. And, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm definitely lucky to be alive. I came to in the ER.
Wow, that's crazy. And then did you go right back to AA, or what'd you do?
Yeah. That one sponsor that was helping me, she's a double winner. So she was just really annoyed with me that I didn't take accountability for the way I drank, because I was saying, I just lost track of my drinks. And to me, I thought that was the truth, but, I just had the allergy. And so, I wasn't really understanding that. But she felt that it was best that I find a different sponsor. And I was super brokenhearted over that, because I really loved this woman. And, I've always had a really hard time trusting women. And I still think she's an amazing person and everything. But that was, that's what happened. And then I asked another friend to sponsor me, but at that time I was already like looking for big book people. I wanted big book. And with that other friend, she was going to take me through the 12 and 12. And I was already starting to feel like I don't feel it. I just wasn't feeling a connection to the work. And I happened to hear a girl share at a meeting that I come to here in Hawaii on Zoom. And she mentioned how someone took her through the big book. And she mentioned, and I don't know, I guess pride, right? Like I go to her, but I don't ask her to like take me through the work. I'm like, who took you through the work? I want that person to take you through the work. It's like, go to the top. I don't know. So that's how I came to Michaelis, and she said that he was sharing the next day. I think it was at a different meeting, and I can go see him or talk to him. And so that's what I did.
When was that?
That was in the pandemic. Was it 2020, right? I don't know.
I don't remember. Who's the girl that did the book with me? Do you remember?
The girl?
Yeah, who was that?
She's Irish.
Oh,
Yes.
Marnie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Oh, that's who we were just talking about before we started.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
So it was 2020. It was around March or somewhere around there. Yeah.
Well, she's actually Scottish, right?
Oh, oops.
Or is she Irish? I don't know.
When she's Scottish, do they hate each other? I don't know how that works.
I don't.
Yeah, that's not good. Edit that out.
Well, yeah. So you heard Marnie speak, but you didn't want her. You wanted the person that took her through.
And also because she mentioned it was a he, and I have had more comfort with males than women. So I was like, oh, if he's willing to take her through, then he'll be willing to take me through. I have a really comfortable relationship with my dad and my brother, and and since my previous woman's sponsor had dumped me, I was like, okay, let's change it up.
So
right?
Sorry, what did you say, Michaelis?
That's cool. I feel like you messaged me after I spoke at that meeting.
Yeah, in the meeting, I was crying. Yeah. I was like,
yeah, you were a mess. Yeah, you were.
I was a mess.
Yeah, you're crying. You're nervous. You're afraid. You were hopeless. It was really sweet. Yeah. Okay.
So y'all started working together at that point. So how did you find that the first topics of the triangle and the service, healing the spirit and all of that?
That was so important for me to hear, and just broken down so simply in a way that just made sense, and it had never been explained to me before. I heard Marnie explain it a little bit at that meeting, and I just thought I felt like woken up by the message, and I definitely felt different than how I had felt starting the process with any other person. I was like, okay, I'm ready. When's the next session? And I was like, even wanting multiple sessions in a week. Let's do this faster. I want to recover fast. And it's funny because I have people that do the same thing. They always want to, well, they're hungry for recovery.
Yeah, I remember what Michaelis has said before. We need to hurry up and get into service, not hurry up and get through the process. Because there's a tendency for people that I work with that are going to use this format to work with others. They're like, but I want to skip the forwards. And it's that's not what it's about. They need to hurry up and find people to take through. That's very kind of backwards or just opposite from what you hear in meetings. So how long after, when you, you were hungry and working with him as much as you could, when did you find your first person, or were you willing to find others right away, or how was that part for you?
I was really uncomfortable with the idea because it's totally opposite what the fellowship says that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to wait. Oh, go ahead.
How much time did you have at this time?
Probably like, I can't remember.
Days, weeks, months.
Well, my last drink was April 2nd, 2020. So it must have been very like right after that.
Yeah.
Really soon. Really quick, really soon.
Yeah.
But
okay.
but I felt like I still had like somewhat of recovery knowledge from like I was obsessed with all the speaker tapes and all of that, but still I didn't feel qualified to lead anybody else through anything. It was like unemployable, like just I can't do anything, I felt. But I trusted what he said, I believed what he said. And I don't know. I don't know how he convinced me to do it. It wasn't even like very convinced. It's like, you got to do this. Like, if you want to get better. And I was like, okay, it's like taking the medicine, right? So I approached my friends in recovery and I asked them if they can help me to take them through the book. And it was more like a favor to me that they were doing it. And then I didn't feel so bad, like if I messed up or if I forgot something, or if I'm stumbling over my words. And one of those persons had many, many years in recovery, but it renewed her program and her love for AA. And we were both, learning as we went. And I heard somewhere that there's both the teacher and the student are both learning at the same time, and that's what it kind of felt like. I'm so grateful for the people that said yes in the beginning to me, because, I didn't have that much time. So, I don't know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Love that. That's the miracle. And that's where we need the willingness. I mean, it's a big pill to swallow, especially if you've been around the rooms for a while and you hear the opposite. You can't help anybody until you finish the entire 12 steps or until you have 1 year sober, or whatever the thing is that you hear. So I love that you had that willingness to be open to the message. And I also love the way that Michaelis says to, if somebody's new, if somebody's got 5 days sober, well, you approach people, it doesn't matter how long they have, like you said, and just say, this will help me. It's not that, oh, I'm going to impart all of this knowledge. You're helping me. So like they're kind of doing the 12 step as well by receiving the help.
Yeah, they're showing up, they're keeping me sober. They're literally keeping me sober. Like the days that I was just miserable, or like, felt like I was feeling depressed or whatever. And I would talk to Michaelis. The question is, how many people are you working with? And I'm like, okay, and of course, every time that I talked to someone, met with someone, I felt so much better because I didn't feel hopeless, and I felt like I had a purpose, to just share this moment, this present moment, and speak of our higher power and the shift that it's having in our lives.
And then how long people did you start to feel more comfortable working with people?
I would say maybe like a couple months or something like that. Once the same regulars, they keep showing up, we know the drill and we know like what we're doing. And sometimes even I didn't know, or they would bring up questions and I would say, okay, I'm not sure. I'll have an answer for you. I'll ask, because again, it wasn't me like giving them this knowledge. It's not my message. It's the message. It's the template that I have. And I don't have to have all the answers, and that relieved some pressure.
Right. I like to say the book is the sponsor. So I love that. And then, you talked about kind of the mental health symptoms before, and even, when you were sober the first time before you drank, and just feeling that desperation that I've got to get through the steps. I need to find relief. I mean, that's so common. People think they do the fourth and fifth and it's going to be this big experience. And, that's not how it is. Like, but even aside from that, how has that aspect of your like emotional and mental health been since you've been in the process in this way with Michaelis?
So right now I'm a year and 7 months sober. So I feel like I'm still pretty like moving into like long-term sobriety. And so I still have some anxiety, but it's more manageable now. I can call on my higher power. I can, just accept that I'm feeling a little something inside me, or it doesn't take me out like it used to. And it doesn't, the depression that I used to feel before, I thought I would rather not be here. I felt like there's never the light on the other side. And now it comes monthly. And I usually just spot it by it feels so different. It's just like all of a sudden I don't feel like surfing. All of a sudden it's just like kind of like everything kind of goes bland. But I already know that if I work with others and I go to meetings and do all that stuff, I pull through, and it's not this hopeless state of mind that it was before. It's just something that just kind of comes around, but I know that it'll pass.
Totally.
And you've remained consistent with working with others pretty much this whole time?
Yeah, the numbers fluctuate, and I'm not as, diligent as you are, but I know that whenever I'm a little bit off, I'm like, okay, like I need to, people drop off at Bill's story very often. So I'm like, yeah, I need to find more people because they're leaving, what if they don't come back?
How do you find people?
I share at meetings, and I, ask directly to people that are suffering in the rooms, or, just put my hand out there.
So you've been able to find people to work with doing that? Because I know a lot of people, they just feel like they can't ever find others and things. So for you to be successful at that, I think it's valuable for others to hear like how you do it.
Yeah, I have people say that too, but I ask them, how many times did you ask people at the meeting this week? And they're like, oh, none. It's like sending my resume out and wanting a job. Like, am I really doing it? Am I putting it out there? So the less I do it, the less likely I am to get the job, So it's just about effort and willingness. And I know that if I make it my job, I'm going to meetings to just see the people that are suffering, even if they have time or not, and just talk to them. They may want it, they may not want it, but it increases my chances of working with others.
When you got sober, like in the middle of the pandemic, so it was pretty much all Zoom at that time. So was that challenging to go to Zoom meetings and try to find people to work with, or?
No, I don't know. I felt like it's almost easier because I could just hide in the chat box, and do direct message, and if they say no or don't respond, whatever. So I felt it's less intimidating than walking up to a human.
That's cool. So you would just DM people during the Zoom meeting, and that's how you would do it.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, because everyone I talked to was so they feel so weird about the Zoom meetings. They can't feel connected, and they're afraid to approach people. They don't know how. So it's cool to know they just DM them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I bet they did online. What are they talking about?
Yeah. Well, I love the analogy.
You should ask them that.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bumble. Yeah, totally.
I know. Can't connect.
But I love the resume analogy, and that's how it is. It's just like, you put out 20 resumes, maybe you'll get 1 or 2 replies. You ask 20 people, maybe 1 or 2 will answer. But I always say, like, it's our enthusiasm, it's our energy, that can really sell it, because it's about like our state of being, that people are attracted to. Or even if it's just a message in a DM, there might be something there that somebody senses.
Yeah. I think the times that I get asked is the times that I share at a meeting and I speak very enthusiastically and passionately about what we're doing. And yeah, that comes through.
Do you feel like doing the book work has how you share, like, changed your message a bit?
Yes, it definitely has. And yeah, it definitely has. I can share differently. Before, I had the understanding that you share at meetings and people would do this thing that's like they check in and they tell you like what they were annoyed in traffic, or like, I don't know. So now I can just talk about recovery and actually the solution and how my life is so much better because of the program. And yeah, that's how I can share.
Well, I love that. It is like a mindset shift, coming to the meeting. Who can I help? Who can I be of service to, instead of what can I get and take out of this, which was, how I was for 20 years in the program. So it's like a paradigm shift in a way. And it's really helpful. Even I'm working with somebody. She had 4 months. She had somebody very close to her, important to her, die of alcoholism. And she had an emergency bottle of wine that she kept in her house, which I told her wasn't a good idea, but she still kept it. But she drank it last week. And, but I told her, I said, go to meetings and see who you can help, and just ask as many people as you can find to take them through the book. Yes, you are suffering, but that's going to be the thing that's going to at least get you out of your own mind for an hour when you're on the phone with somebody, if nothing else. And she now has the willingness, and it has asked a number of people, and she's got all these people all of a sudden. So it gives us purpose.
I'm so proud of you, honestly, like, because I hear from people who are new that I work with are excuses, just literally every reason why they can't work with people. They don't have anything to offer. They're afraid. It's a Zoom meeting. They don't know how to approach people. Like, no one's going to want to like listen to them, just all this stuff. And like, when I met you, you were fucking broken, you were really like, you were a mess, you didn't want to be on this earth. You had like extreme anxiety. Like, you were just so filled with like spirituality. And I remember weeks ago sitting across from you at Whole Foods and looking at like a woman, you know what I mean? Like, who's confident and just is owning her stuff and like sharing coherently, and you know what I mean? Just seemingly recovered. And, the fact that you like started this work right away, and you didn't let anything stop you, and you pushed through all those fears and all that like self-doubt, and you did it anyway, and you really went to any lengths, and the person that you become as a result of that is just such, this shit does work for anyone with any amount of time, because the truth is that most people that approach me have time, even more time than me, and they're trying to like refigure this out, or they've been living a really uncomfortable experience for a long time sober, and they want to AA is really about. But you're one of those new people that just did it and started it, and it's shifted you. And it's just, you're like an awesome example of what this program does. It's amazing. So
yeah, I'm so grateful. I don't think I would have made it. I don't know. I was definitely in so much pain and suicidal and everything. Yeah, this process, just for me, like immediately I felt that like, this is it, you know, this like, hopefully it, you know, other people feel a shift too. But yeah, I just trusted that other people have gone before me and they say this thing works in this specific manner, the big book. And it does, you know. And the best thing for me is the fact that I get to give it to other people. And it's such an easy process because it's not of me. It's not like my own thing. It's not sharing, like, you know, I'm not running their life or anything and like don't know what to tell them or anything like that. Or just, I have the big book, which is my template of sharing. And then as we're sharing, I get these little nudges from spirit to like, hey, like ask this question or like bring this thing up. And we have an awesome conversation about, you know, what it really is to feel the physical allergy or the mental twist, or, you know, or the spiritual malady, and really like have examples of what that means. Because I feel like that's the most important for people to like really realize what it is in my own life and have examples, and I have them share their own experience so that really like they really connect with that part of it. Because once we know where we're at, you know, feeling like divisive or like they're all wrong, then we know we're in the spiritual malady and something's off and I need to get into service and into the big book. And yeah.
To give is to receive. It truly is. And I never understood that. And, you know, for me, it was just like sponsorship's optional. I don't want to sponsor. It's too much pressure, as like you're talking about, like, but when we just have this book to share and pass on, it just, and then we get, you know, information and knowledge, as you said, like nudges. And then we start trusting that, then it becomes bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. So how amazing. Is there anything else either of you want to add? Any other questions or anything that you want to share about this for anybody that might be listening that needs to hear something?
Something that comes to mind is I remember sharing this process with someone, and actually a few people, that I also sent some of the videos out for Michaelis, and sometimes they would, rather than like work with others or like use that fire and excitement, they would start to just go through all the videos and just go through all the process. And I felt like, you know, when I started to share with them that fire that they feel for recovery and for learning and knowledge, like use that fire to seek other people, to give your number out, to take numbers, which is even more important because that's how you get to talk to them even more. So yeah, whenever that fire to do something and to like gain more knowledge, like that's the energy that's moving through us. And if we can direct it to helping others, then we can get people to work with.
Well, yeah, because self-knowledge avails us nothing. Like they talk about that so many times in the book. And I mean, I definitely did not make those videos for people to just like. In the videos, like you need to pass this on, right? So yeah, that's interesting that people do that. But yeah, I mean, the magic only happens when you give it away. And actually, that's how the message evolves and deepens, because as you angles to reach new people, it like expands the message in the book, you know, just as it expands the concept of God and expands, you know, all the different ideas or the principles that we talk about. And, you know, Gnostics today, when they talk about the jumping off place to basically decide whether I think God is everything or God is nothing, like what that means to me today is way different than what it meant to me 10 years ago or 12 years ago when I started this process, you know, and that many conversations about it, you know. So yeah, it's really working with others that I think is is the thing that makes the most profound, so.
I had that experience yesterday, or the other day. I was in Bill's story with somebody, and I mean, I've done it so many times now, I think I know it, I'm actually getting it. I'm memorizing it. It's just happening. And I had new awarenesses and insights, like about where Bill talks about his bodily and mental health fell off like a ski jump. So even before that, he's like talking about all of this mental anguish, taking the mattress to a lower floor, doctor bringing gin instead of, like, I never saw that as like an emotional experience or hitting an emotional bottom until I was in the book with this person who then he brought it up, and he's like, oh, here's how the physical affected me, and here's how the mental part of alcoholism affected me. And then I just saw it in that page, like I'd just never seen it before. And it's just like on and on and on and on, and it never ends. So really cool.
It keeps it interesting. I mean, that's how I don't get bored of it. After doing it for all these years, it's always a new experience with these texts, so yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, and also I'm getting a little chatty here, but anyway, I don't mean to interrupt. Oh my gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, the videos. That's right. Because those who've listened to the podcast know my story, where, I mean, the way that this found me was a little unconventional, I guess you could say, but I started out watching the videos, the fact that Norma brought. So Michaelis, those who don't know, Michaelis has these videos on YouTube, which are great. And, we're happy to share them if you want, reach out. But it's him going through the process on video. And so I had not met Michaelis. I had met somebody he had worked with who gave me the videos. And so I just started watching them on my own. And I also asked this woman, hey, do you want to do a big book study? So we were watching the videos together. And then I moved away, and then the pandemic happened, and then Michaelis wasn't finished with the videos. He was still in the process of making them. So they stopped. And then I was like, well, what do I do? I'm taking, it was like a couple people through only on the videos. And I'm like, I can't go any further. So I reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, are you going to be finishing these things up? And then I asked him a couple questions, and I was like, is it okay to do it this way? Just the videos were sponsoring me through the book, but I was helping others. And he's like, well, yeah, you can do that, but the magic happens live, one-on-one, in a live one-on-one session. And then immediately I was thinking, ooh, well, I would love to ask Michaelis to do that, but he's probably too busy. He'll probably say no. People like him, they're always full, and they're too, always. So I just had this immediate assumption, like I'm not good enough, cool enough. He's full and busy, and I'm like, well, would you be willing? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh wow, okay. So that's how I started working one-on-one with him. So speaking about the videos.
You're way cooler than me. Look at your hair, seriously.
I have pink hair for those who are listening in an audio format.
Yeah, it's really good. Fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Norma. Is anything else you want to say? Anybody, Michaelis or Norma?
I'm good.
You're good.
You kind of froze a little bit.
Oh, it's cool. I just said thanks for coming.
I'm good too. I think I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. And it was a little uncomfortable and weird, but I said yes. And I always trust that it's a good process, and it's good for me to get out of my comfort zone. So thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Well, that same muscle that you had to use to do this, you've already done that so much, in finding people in the big book, right, in the beginning. So that's another one reason why I love it, because it just, we have a spiritual awakening, a God-powered personality change. So like that same person who's like on day one of the big book study, that's like, hell no, I'm not going to be asking anybody. If they actually do it and push through that uncomfortability, they change. And so, that's exactly what I hear you describing. And now you're able to step out into your life in a bigger way and do this in other areas. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
So thank you. And thank you, Michaelis. And so excited to be with you all today. So stay tuned for another episode whenever I choose to drop one, which is not consistent lately, but that's okay. All in God's time. And subscribe to our podcast, follow us on social media. I'm all over the place there. Michaelis is TikTok celebrity now, and I don't know what else. But yeah, find us, follow us, all that good stuff. And see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.